Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Super Lunch Bros Podcast, episode number 108. I am Brendan. We're going to talk about ONE FC today. I think this is going to be the first time I've ever dedicated an episode to ONE FC. We're going to talk about ONE FC, One Championship X or ONE X, whatever it was called. It's a very weird naming thing. It's just called ONE X. Angela Lee versus Stamp Fairtex, but the big thing for me was Rodtang versus Demetrious Johnson in a mixed rules bout, mixed rules per round bout, which is pretty interesting. And there's two championship fights on there. Shinyo Aoki fought Sexyama. So we're going to talk about those fights. Before we get started, please, if you like MMA, if you like the UFC especially, this is a channel dedicated to pretty much those things. I do other stuff as well, but I talk about MMA, I talk about movies and TV and sometimes and that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in any of those things, please subscribe so next time I post a video, you get a notification, and then please like the video because it really helps to let me know that you guys are interested in these specific videos and which ones that you guys like more than the others. All right. Oh, also, all of my episodes are going to be, I'm going to have to figure out a new way to post them onto Spotify or else because I am going to be canceling the way I do it now. It's just a weird service, so I'm going to be switching around, seeing if I could find a better way to do it for myself. So let's get into it. I don't know. What should we talk about first? I'd say let's talk about Demetrious Johnson's versus Rodtang because that event was, I know it wasn't the main event. I get it, and I'm sure like somebody who's a diehard ONE FC fan or maybe someone who loves continuity or order or those kinds of things might be upset with me. I don't care. In my opinion, it was it's the most interesting fight on here because it was a mixed rules bout, right? So the first round was Muay Thai, and the second round was there's 4 rounds. Each round's 3 minutes. First round, Muay Thai only. Second round, mixed martial arts. So all things go, and as we know in ONE FC, there's slightly different rules as far as the scoring system. The fight is judged as a whole. It's not a 10-point must system. And then it's similar to how they used to do it in Pride. Similar, not exactly. And then also you're allowed to knee a ground opponent in the head, which I am a fan of because it changes the game and it makes it more dangerous to sit on the ground. It's not a safe it's much less safe. And I think people adapt to it. So, we can go back and look at the brutal things from, Pride when people were doing foot stomps and stuff. But really, that's few and far between. That doesn't happen that often because it was an allowed technique. You have to know how to defend against it. Therefore, you're not going to just sit there on the ground and wait to get your face stomped in. You're going to move or you're going to tap out or whatever it might be. You're just going to adjust to what you need to. So anyway, Rodtang is a insane. And pull up his record here. I think they have it on his website. On their website, don't they? No. Why don't they have his record on here? That seems silly. Anyway, Rodtang has freaking, I don't know, 300 plus wins. He's got an insane amount of 300 plus wins. He's got 43 losses or something. And it's just amazing that look at this. Compiling over 250 wins by the time he turned 21. He's just Muay Thai kickboxing phenom, right? He's just insane, always going forward. If you go watch some of his highlights. He's got a crazy chin as well. He takes a lot of punishment, and then he just stands there and it's nuts. So in the first round, Rodtang landed a few clean shots against DJ. Right, and if you're not familiar with Demetrious Johnson, and maybe you came into MMA, especially the UFC, right? If you came in maybe in the past 3 or 4 years, Demetrious Johnson was the first flyweight champion in the UFC, and he was by far the best fighter in the UFC, pound for pound, right? By definition, I think he was the best fighter in the UFC. It's hard to argue against it. You can make arguments about the stakes are higher when you get up to the higher weight classes because there's more chances of knockouts and there's more consequences for your actions and mistakes and those kinds of things. But I would argue that Demetrious Johnson's fight style, if he was 240 pounds, would beat anybody in the world. Now, obviously, that fight style might not translate into the higher weight classes. That's why that we do the pound-for-pound ranking system, whatever. Anyway, he got traded over to ONE FC, and he's been fighting over there for the past 4 or 5 years now. And this fight was pretty interesting. So like I said, in the first round, Rodtang was just a marauder, moving forward. And it seemed like a DJ kept looking to tie up in a weird way that wasn't allowed. And it looked like he was a little out of sorts. So there's a lot of brain pathways. There's a lot of movement pathways that become normal and patterns, right? So it's just like when you get up in the morning, right? You have a pattern of things that you do, and each one of those things in sequence, they just happen, right? Or maybe before you work out, you have a sequence of things that you do, or before you eat, whatever it might be. There's probably something in your life, or if you are an athlete, you can attest to this. There are certain things where you go on autopilot because it's built-in muscle memory. You just know the motion, it's going to happen. You get some sort of stimulus, some sort of input, some sort of action happens, and then your body reacts almost before you think about it, because it might actually act before you think about it. They call it being in like the flow state. It's hard to break those kinds of things when they've been ingrained in you for so long, and you could tell that Demetrious had those issues in that first round. It didn't look like he was comfortable. Now, it's not like he was out of his completely out of his league or out of his depth, whatever you want to say. He was competent. Okay, he landed a few good shots of his own. He was on the defensive most of the time. I mean, he was moving back. He was relatively responsible with his chin. He wasn't leaving himself out there to be countered a ton, especially with a really experienced fighter like this. And I am not the biggest Rodtang fan. Not like I don't like the guy. I just don't know a lot about him, right? So I have not seen anything outside of like a few fights of his and his highlights. So apparently he's a very slow starter. Didn't look like it in this one. I think he knew that if this went to the second round, it was going to be a problem for him. So he was like trying to get DJ out of there as fast as possible. And he really put it on him. He moved in. He was throwing hard kicks up top. He was not a lot of leg kicks, interestingly. Hard body kicks, throwing like hard hooks, and he landed a few of them on DJ. DJ landed a few good overhand rights. It was an interesting thing to see a truly one-dimensional, no, not one-dimensional, a truly specialized expert and someone at the top of his, almost at the top of his field, right, in Muay Thai and kickboxing with that style, against a guy who's been training in MMA and who is a okay striker in his own regard in DJ, and seeing them interact in that first round when the rules are just in Muay Thai, knowing the implications of the second round. So it's different, right? Because we've seen fighters go into boxing before, MMA fighters go into boxing, we've seen them go into kickboxing, we've seen vice versa. So when it changes your mindset, because if you know that in the first round, the fight is catered to your skill set and what you excel in, but the second round is catered towards your opponents, you have a different strategy going into that fight and going into that first round than you would if all 4 rounds, 5 rounds, or 3 rounds were either in your opponent's favor or your favor, right? Because if this was just a Muay Thai match for 3 rounds, 5 rounds, I'm guessing Rodtang might not have been so aggressive in that first round. He might have been a little bit more conservative, and we might have seen the more traditional Rodtang that people were talking about, the slow starter, because he knows he has plenty of time to work, gather information, build up data on his opponent, and get a feel for everything, and then execute going forward. So with all that, or in MMA, right? DJ knows he's got 5 minutes in each round, which there were only 3 in this round, but in a traditional MMA match, he has 5 minutes to work. He's got time. He can play it out and see how the rounds go. He can he can mix things up, but he couldn't. So it made for an interesting dynamic, and I think it changed the mindset and the fight that we saw. Incredible. I think it had a profound effect on it. I think if this was just an MMA match, this would not have gone this way. Maybe it did. So in the first round, I know they don't do traditional scoring, but that's kind of what I'm used to. So traditional scoring, I'd give Rodtang a 10-9. He not a 10-8 because he didn't really, put DJ down or anything, but he was way ahead, and I think he landed the more significant strikes. Second round starts, total flip, right? It was a complete reversal of the first round. Rodtang is moving backwards, DJ's moving forwards, and it was interesting to see just that the dichotomy of the two rounds. It was completely backwards. It was so funny to see when one guy's in their element and one guy isn't, and then you flip it, and it's just really interesting to see that. So Rodtang was on the back foot. He was moving relatively well. I feel like he was evading / running away. I mean, he never turned his back to him, and he wasn't totally disengaging completely and trying to totally avoid all encounters. But you can tell that he did not want to be anywhere near DJ because he knows if a grappling exchange occurs, he's going to be at a huge disadvantage. And that's exactly what happened. DJ got his back, locked in the rear naked choke, and then Rodtang did not tap, and he went to sleep in the second round. So DJ ends up winning. I thought it was a really interesting concept. I think it was an interesting fight. It was fun to watch. I mean, two guys at the top of their field, and you give both of them an opportunity. Instead of saying, hey, DJ, you go do a Muay Thai match, and then Rodtang, you come over here and do an MMA match, why don't we mix them together? We're not fighting for a belt here. Neither one of these guys necessarily is looking to move into the other sport. So it's kind of it's not an, I don't even know how you would say, it's not an exhibition match, because I think I think it counted towards their records, right? I don't know what you would put it in. I guess you would call it MMA, like mixed rules. But anyway, it was really fun. If you guys get a chance, I do recommend watching it. It was fun to see. It's cool to see DJ still excelling at his age. I think he's 38 now. I'll probably speak on this maybe when he officially retires, but I think he is one of the greatest mixed martial arts artists of all time. I put him up there right with GSP and Anderson Silva. I really do. I don't see a way that you can't include him in that conversation. For as dominant as he was, as good as he still is, and just the varied amount of skills that he showed in the finishing ability, as well as the ability to fight through adversity. And in fact, I don't think he ever lost his belt in the UFC. It's not a controversial opinion to think that Cejudo did not win that second fight. I've watched it multiple times. I did not give Cejudo that second fight. I think the damage was clearly in Johnson's favor, and we had one of those situations where the judges were looking at crappy grappling as opposed to effective damage. So, like I said, to sum that fight up, I think it was fun to watch, fun experience. Also, ONE FC, I've seen some of their highlights before. I have watched a couple events of theirs. Their production quality, A+. Looks great. Everything's fantastic. The lighting, the sound. I like the announcers. They get overly excited about silly things that are going on, but somehow it works. I don't know if it's their voice or the way that, I don't know what it is, but I really like it. I thought it was fun. I will for sure watch more ONE FC. I have been lately anyway. I've been watching some of the highlights, so it's going to be hard for me to follow it like I follow the UFC. It's just ONE FC. It's so foreign, both literally and figuratively to me, because it's not based here, so the fight times are going to be weird. And then also on top of that, the fighter base is not people that I'm familiar with, so I guess it's just something I either have to go all in or I don't know. I'll have to figure it out. But like I said, worth watching. All right, so then we had the main event here was Angela Lee versus Stam Fairtex. Stam Fairtex, an up-and-coming fighter, is a really good striker. This is for the atomweight belt. I thought it was a fun fight for as long as it lasted. Fairtex landed a really good hook to the liver of Angela Lee and almost put her down in the first round. And she got she put on some decent damage on her, but then Lee recovered, got her back, and was working for submissions. I think the second half of that first round. So most of that first round was probably like in favor of Lee as far as like grappling exchanges and all those things go. But if you're going with traditional scoring, who won that first round? I might go Fairtex because she clearly hurt Lee. But it's all for naught. Doesn't matter. In the second round, Lee got her in a body. Got her back again and just sat like out grappled her. It wasn't even close. All the transitions were in favor of Lee. I don't think she was ever in a not even a terrible position. I don't think she was in a less than advantageous position. I don't think Fairtex ever had the upper hand when it came to grappling. It was a clear win as far as it was a clear advantage for Lee on the ground. Never once did I feel like she was out of control. She looked like she was just looking for the finish. She was working for armbar. She had her in a triangle at one point, and then she had a twister almost locked in. Beautiful ground game, great transitions, and Fairtex she did a decent enough job defending, right? Women tend to be more flexible, so they can their body gives in ways. Female fighters have talked about this is why they train with other female fighters and they can't just train with men, because sometimes they'll catch a guy in a submission attempt and he'll have to tap because it's really working against his flexibility, whereas a female might be able to work through that position because she's more flexible. So female fighters have spoken to that in the past, and you can kind of see that in grappling exchanges. It's not always true. Some men are ultra flexible, BJ Penn. Some women might not be as flexible. That's the thing is it depends, but on average, women in MMA tend to be a little bit more forgiving on the ground with their flexibility. So anyway, you look at this fight. Lee looks really good. She's the first mom champ in ONE FC history, which is pretty cool. She just had a baby. It's, pretty cool story. I think Fairtex looks like a really good striker that she just needs. She needs some time on the ground and experience to just build up her jiu-jitsu, just to be able to play around effectively on the ground and work for better positioning. It's just modern MMA. You just can't disregard the ground game like that and then hope that you're going to get stood up. You have to get up yourself. I think if you're not going to be a submission artist and you're not going to work on submissions or, submitting people off your back to be, like a prime Donald Cerrone who was nasty with the triangles. So he didn't care if he was taken down. Therefore, he could throw kicks and punches freely, not caring if he was going to get taken down to the ground. So he would, just throw up a triangle and submit people that way. So, if you're not going to go that route and you just want to focus on striking, then you got to focus on, the other thing is you have to be able to get up. You have to be able to get up. 100% of the time, right? Unless you're dealing with a Damian Maia or someone like I don't know who's got crushing top pressure. Glover Teixeira, people like that. Even with them, you got to be able to get out of it and get back up to your feet. You got to have better cardio and better recovery skills. Anyway, fun fight. It was a fun fight to watch too. Here was one, Adriano Moraes versus Yuya Wakamatsu. Boring, super boring, really bad. They both got yellow cards for lack of activity, and then Moraes gets a submission win in the third round. He's the champion, and he kept the belt, so it is what it is. Didn't really take any notes on it. It was super boring. All right, last fight I want to talk about, Shinya Aoki versus Yoshihiro Akiyama, Sexy Yama. Dude, this guy's still fighting. I don't know how. It's crazy to me. First round, Aoki gets on this guy's back, and he puts in he puts him in a body triangle, and he's doing the human backpack, and he's on him for the entire first round, the whole first round. And then Akiyama's defending against rear naked choke attempts. And at one point, you could hear him like, because he was throat was being crushed. He worked. Aoki was working for neck cranks, and Akiyama was able to get out of all of them. So first round, Aoki just smoked him. It looked like it was going to be over. But then, once it started getting to that last minute, you're like, oh, shit. He's probably going to be tired going into the second round. Also, something weird that was happening. The referee was saying to Aoki when he was on Akiyama's back, he was like, hey, stop hitting him in the back of the head, which is fine. That's not weird. That's normal. You can't hit him back in the head. But the referee was putting his hand on the back of Akiyama's head and saying, no, don't hit here, and holding it there. And then, saying Aoki to, hit around the guy, a referee's hand. It was very strange. I'm not against it. It's just a new technique that I've never seen before. I'm sure it has, if you think about it, it raises a lot of questions, and there's a lot of complications with doing that. So I probably wouldn't recommend referees implement that into their reffing style, but it was weird to see. The second round, both guys looked tired, but Akiyama was the one moving forward. He was landing good shots, and then he cracked Aoki, got him to the ground, threw a knee, landed right on Aoki's chin when Aoki was sitting on the ground. And, dude, he got the TKO finish and collapsed. Enjoy. These guys do not like each other. I have not been following their beef, but, they showed it in their highlights. They're talking shit about each other. They just do not like each other. Aoki is a pretty brash individual, and he does not like Akiyama because he feels that his celebrity has surpassed his martial arts, and that's why he gets the notoriety that he does now, and it's not for actually competing in martial arts. So, fun fight to watch, too. Aoki's really good. There was some other kickboxing match. John Wayne Parr got a loss. This is last kickboxing match ever. It was fun to watch because in the third round, he did come, he should have won that. I mean, again, if they do the round scoring, so he would have won that third round, and he did a lot of damage. He was coming forward, even rocked Edwards, so it was pretty fun to watch. And then Superbon took on Murat Gregorian, just a decision fight. So anyway, that's all I'm going to cover. Apparently there's more to this. Part 1, Part 2. Oh, yeah. There's prelims and stuff. There's a bunch of other things. That's why I said, there's weird timing. So in order to catch these fights, you have to be up at a weird time as far as the United States goes. I understand other people are like, oh, poor boy, a poor baby. Because everybody has to deal with, the UFC catering to the U.S. So I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that that's a difficulty when it comes to keeping up with the stuff. That's it. I liked it. Fun. Because I only watched that, that basically the finale, the main card, moved at pretty briskly, actually. It was fun to watch. I'm down to watch more 1FC. So if you guys want to have a watch party, let me know. I'm down. But I like it. I like the feel of it. I think it's fun. It brings back a lot of the memories of Pride. I know Ryzen does this stuff as well with the big entries. I think this pomp and circumstance. I think it's fun. I think it brings back a lot of character to MMA. It feels less like a business transaction. Not that I don't like that side either. I do like analytics, and I like the UFC, and I like how it's become not necessarily like a business. I don't like that word, but I like how it's become very structured as far as knowing what to expect, figuring out the matchups and those kinds of things. And there's comfort in normality, and there's comfort in having your expectations met regularly and those kinds of things. That being said, the craziness without feeling guilty, I really like. I don't want to see 50-year-olds punch each other in the nuts. I hate that shit. So, when Bellator is putting on their clown shows, yeah, of course I watched it, but I'm not I want to see more of this. This is the best thing ever. I want to see all of it. It's not my thing. But if they integrated more of it, the way, I think 1FC does a great job. I really do. They have a weight cutting thing that they're all about, and there's not proof that they do it. So that's a whole can of worms that I don't want to get into or keep this short. So overall, fun, awesome, had fun. Let me know what you guys think. Did you guys like the card? Did you even watch the card? Are you interested in 1FC at all? If you aren't, okay, I understand. I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan up until now. And not necessarily am either. I just really enjoyed some of the things they put on, and I love watching DJ fight. So that is all. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it, and please have an awesome week.